Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in just a few minutes, or I guess about a minute or two. Let a few people kind of join in as we are just hitting the top of the hour. Unfortunately, no music today. We've upgraded Zoom and I can't seem to get my music started. But for now, if you can, drop in the chat where you're calling in from. Again, love to hear, where everybody's calling in and see how we're supporting.
Definitely. And
Idaho.
if anyone would like to sing along a song for us, we can unmute you. So throw that in the chat and we could get that going.
Yeah, I won't be singing. That is not my thing, but I would definitely probably run everybody away. So
Oh no.
looks like some people from Idaho, Arizona, Maryland, St. Louis. Awesome. Northern Michigan, Colorado Springs. Awesome. I was just in Colorado. You want a workshop? Boston. That's up in your area, right?
Yeah, our neck of the woods. We got some gorgeous weather today here in New York. I hope everyone else does too.
My gorgeous weather is probably not your gorgeous weather. I'm curious what your temperature is right now.
Well, right now I think we're right around 70.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are probably closer to the 90s down here in Houston. So
Yeah, we had a cold front last week. We were down in the 50s for a little while, but I think the last run of summer is here and we're going to cool back down shortly.
All right, Rich, we ready to kick this off?
Yeah, so let's
Ready
kick
to
this off.
dive in? All right.
All right. So thanks again for joining us at our monthly webinar series here. Again, I'm Rich Cheek. I'm an advisory solution consultant here with ServiceNow, coming to you with a practitioner background, implementation experience, and have been in the ecosystem about a decade. For those that I haven't spoke to before, hello, and thanks for joining. And Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle Campos, an ITAM solution consultant like Rich. I've been a practitioner in the space for a really long time and just coming from Houston, or I guess right outside of Houston, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Awesome. All right. So our classic safe harbor notice slide is here. I don't believe anything we're going to be showing today will be forward-looking. Everything we are going to be talking about is new in Xanadu. But just in case we do start talking roadmap, don't make any investing decisions, purchasing decisions, yada, yada, yada. With that said, why are we here? Again, we're trying to build a sense of community around asset management on the ServiceNow platform. We launched this webinar series earlier this year to help keep folks up to date on what's going on in the space, whether that's deep dive into features and functionality, talking about road mapping and building that community around asset management. That's why we're here today. And we like to keep it pretty informal and drink a glass of wine and wind down the end of the day there. So, I mean, Michelle, what are you drinking today?
So I went, I went Halloween. If you can't tell, right? Halloween's my thing. I got some bats flying around on my back wall and the headless horseman over here in the corner. But my husband was with me whenever we picked this out, and he said this fits you really well, and it's called the Witch's Brew. So I am going to be trying this pumpkin spice witch's brew from. It sounds like it's an apple wine with spices added. So we'll see how this tastes. And just to be honest, I did taste a little bit before we got on the call, because the last thing you want to see is me spewing something that I didn't like across the screen. So
that would make for good TV, Michelle.
Yeah, that'd make for a really good reel for somebody to make fun of me on. So I try and keep it as minimal as possible whenever it comes to funny videos of me. But whenever I did try it earlier, it was a little bit warm, so I'm gonna try it cold now. It's actually really good. Much better cold. It awesome. Does have that kind of pumpkin spice, apple spice kind of taste to it, but very refreshing.
More cidery than winey.
Yeah, I would definitely say more cidery. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Michelle gave me a sneak peek into what she was drinking, and I tried my best to get with the Halloween theme. And the closest thing I could find was a bottle with a scary looking lion on it. It's a Juggernaut Hillside Cabernet. And that was the most Halloween themed thing I could find at the liquor store today. So with that said, I think it's just a pretty standard Cabernet.
I love the bottle. Like, it's so funny because that's what gets me, I would say 80% of the time is just looking at the bottle.
Good marketing is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just to flash it back up on the screen if anyone cared. The wine's not bad. Classic Cabernet, full bodied, if you're, I guess, could call it that, and probably go well with a nice Italian dinner. So
Awesome. And it
cool.
looks like somebody's enjoying an iced coffee. Probably iced coffee is a little more up my alley, but hopefully if you didn't bring wine, maybe you have something to kind of sip on as we do kind of go through this session. Keep you motivated to keep getting through it. So I went to chat and I'm like, hey, help me come up with a rhyme, to kind of keep this exciting. And it came up with Xanadu debut. We've got something new for you. So I thought it was cute. Threw it on this slide deck. But yeah, that's where we're going to be going today. Sorry, Rich, I'm probably taking slides that you're ready to talk about. But today we are, as always, really going to stay focused in the software and the hardware asset space. Sometimes we do talk about enterprise asset. We've done a couple of sessions around that and, cloud cost management. But just to make sure that we meet the time frame and we are able to kind of really show you what's out there, what's coming new, we wanted to stay focused in the software and hardware space.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rich, you want to take it from here?
Definitely. So again, I'm going to be focusing in on software asset management, where we've taken that for the Xanadu release. We've made enhancements to pretty much all the areas of the solution, from our content library, improved normalization. We're always adding to our publisher packs for optimization, and just trying to really build that robust SAM solution for our customers. Again, it's built on a single data model on top of the ServiceNow platform, so we're able to leverage all of this across the life cycle of our software assets. So from the point that you're procuring new software to mitigating risk at the end of its life, we've built solutions to help kind of manage towards that. So on the next slide, just to show some of the growth right across the platform here. Michelle, if you want to pop to the next one, perfect.
Wasn't paying attention.
No, that's okay.
Reading the crockpot menu, the crockpot suggestion.
I saw that too. For folks that are not looking at the chat, somebody suggested that warming up the wine that Michelle is drinking and adding some, I guess, more fall spices to it, maybe in a crock pot, would enhance the experience. And I think that sounds like a great idea, Michelle. I have to see if I can find that bottle of wine. Yeah.
I'm going to try it tomorrow. So
I'm going to ask you to ship me a bottle from Texas, please.
Right.
So, all right, dialing back into this. It's a very wordy screen here, but it's just showing the evolution, right, of SAM from, actually, we date back further than this to I think New York it may have been released on back in 2019-ish, but today on Xanadu, where we've taken the product. So we have made enhancements on it around our software inventory and analytics information, and then a lot of actually feature functionality for specific software and publishers, right? These vendors are changing ways that they're licensing software and we're managing towards it. So we're enhancing on the platform, whether that's, helping with managing SAP products, Tableau. We're always enhancing our Microsoft functionality to, manage towards what they're doing. We're hearing a lot of initiatives of businesses managing, open source software, Linux-based server software, such as Red Hat, IBM functionality. Again, Oracle is always on the front of everybody's minds with how Java has changed licensing recently. So we are helping to manage our metrics towards that. And then just enhancing our use, our workspaces and reports, really growing the platform there. And just to flash up kind of one more slide on the growth of the platform for those that might go back and watch the recording. This dates back to the beginning of time with SAM and where we kind of started and are taking it today, but just to show all of the feature functionality that's been added along our way. So this is just a snapshot, and we're going to dive further into this here in a minute during a little demo, but it's our software asset inventory analytics page. This was something that did exist in Washington, but we've made some significant enhancements to this and added some workflow functionality on managing, end-of-life software, for example. So this is, again, an interactive page on our workspace. It comes by default with SAM. When you turn it on, it's enabled. And it's going to help you really dive into the analytics and numbers and see where you're looking to take software at your organization. Another piece to call out, and this, again, was not necessarily introduced in Xanadu, but enhanced on it, are different, success guides and guided experiences to setting up SAM. When we're talking about, and Michelle did a webinar a few months back where we set up a direct SaaS integration with Zoom. That's a relatively straightforward integration. But when you start talking about managing SQL Server across your enterprise, there's really a lot of steps that have to happen behind the scenes to make sure your foundational data is there and accurate. These playbooks kind of give you those prescriptive step-by-step guides on setting that up to make sure that your discovery sources are running correctly, your entitlements are crafted correctly, and all of the scheduled jobs are running along the way. And then finally, just one last slide before we dive into the platform. We've really enhanced our capabilities of managing SAP licenses. So we've given new ways to create those entitlements with a metric for digital access as they're managing towards. We could gather the various different document types and counts that are within those systems, and then showcase that over and underutilization of your software. So you could, come true up time, defend yourself, or decrease your footprint, or potentially say, hey, we are using this, we need to increase our footprint with SAP. We've got a lot of management around that there. So
yeah, before we move forward, I just wanted to call out, I'm not seeing Q&A on mine. Rich, do you see Q&A as an option? Because if not, we'll just use chat for now. If you have questions, you can throw them in the chat. But looks like another upgrade from Zoom that
I see the Q&A section. I don't see any questions.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll let you.
If somebody wants to throw a test question in there for us, yep, test question, Carrie. Thank you for that. I see it. We have answered it live, so I'll monitor that, Michelle. I've got
perfect. And it could be just I'm sharing my screen, so
yeah, it's probably that. My Zoom bar hops around frequently. All right, so with that, I'm going to steal the screen here and dive into the ServiceNow platform. So you can see it, right, Michelle?
Yep, I can see it now.
All right, awesome. So right now we're living in our SAM workspace, and we've been here a few times on our journey on this webinar series. But just again, for the folks that might not be familiar, this is that landing page, that mission control for your software asset managers at your organization. It's going to give you that snapshot, that 10,000-foot view of how you're doing, whether you're in and out of compliance with your different vendors, how you're doing on discovering software into ServiceNow, and really managing that full life cycle. But kind of where I wanted to start today and show some new feature functionality was in the Software Asset Analytics tab. So folks may be familiar with this today, and it does have some functionality, right? We have, today we have an overview of SaaS there. We have in Xanadu really revamped this page to add more meaningful reports and analytics around what's going on with your software. And just, I think, a little bit clearer on how you can click into it to start to see your subscriptions and where you might be able to save money across them. Still there are engineering license overview tabs, our cloud cost simulator tabs. So again, if you're looking to manage those like OpenLM licenses, AutoCAD, that type of software where it's concurrent licensing, that's brought in here along with that cloud cost simulator. So maybe you have a migration effort, you're looking to bring things from on-prem to the cloud. Those still exist today. But we have actually added some tabs here for things like discovered inventory. And I thought this was really cool when I first saw it come out, and it gives a great snapshot of where software is installed in your organization. So again, understanding things that are installed on end user devices is kind of straightforward. But as we start to look into servers and clusters of virtualized servers and maybe containerized software out there, we can really start to see where that's installed across our environment to help, drive resources into the right places to make sure we're discovering it correctly. I think this was kind of slick too, where we have our software installations by discovery sources. So this is a question we often get from customers, and maybe some friction points, pain points in my past life where, competing discovery sources, maybe overwriting one another. So we could really start to see what is bringing software into ServiceNow, all in that one place. So we could go in, we could click into this and say, our agent the ServiceNow agents bringing in software across these two installations. This is a subset of data. If you're using our agent deployed to a lot of devices, you'll see a lot more information here. But just to kind of paint that picture of this software is being discovered by our agent versus something like SCCM.
That's a really
From
good
there,
way to kind of
oh
clean
yeah,
up, right? Like being able to see where it's coming in, and if
oh yeah.
you are seeing duplications, and you can start identifying those and start looking back at the,
Mm-hmm.
IRE, is it set up correctly? Are you
Mm-hmm.
doing presidents and things of that nature?
Mm-hmm.
And although it falls kind of outside of the ITAM space, we still need to understand ultimately how that's being created, and then helping some of those operational pieces
Yeah.
fall into play.
That's a great call out, Michelle. It's definitely a good place to start that cleanup piece. I think so. Back at Knowledge, we were in a lab for CMDB health for ITAM support, something like that it was called. But the gentleman running the lab was telling a room full of asset managers that if you're not on at least a weekly coffee date with your CMDB personnel at your organization, you're not setting yourselves up for success. And a dashboard like this is something great you can pull up sitting alongside them to compare and contrast like what they're seeing versus what you're seeing to get, that great clean data coming in. I think pretty cool too is, a lot of folks are starting to manage software across maybe development production environments. This is based on the different tags that are out there, right? So that information can be reflected in this dashboard and across that hybrid infrastructure. So where things are on-prem versus in an, an AWS, Azure, Google Cloud type of data center, we could get a picture of where that software is installed. So overall, I just think these are some great new visualizations to help folks see what's going on in their environments. The next piece of this puzzle that came in new is this normalization and content tab. So this was actually in our SAM workspaces, but in another area. We've surfaced it up to be more visible here. So we could see how we're doing with normalization over time. My company's doing fantastically right now at 99% or normalization.
Amazing.
Amazing, right? But just in general, we could see those trends over time and see where things might be taking blips or coming down. And then, as with everything in ServiceNow, you could kind of click into here and see what those records are, over time to kind of make up that data and really improve your normalization. So if there was an event that had happened where it did blip downwards, maybe you onboarded a new piece of software, you could kind of see that there. Again, you could drill into the actual pieces of software that are not normalizing here. This used to exist kind of on a homepage hidden down in the corner. I love that they've surfaced it up a little bit larger here. And then just some information about those scheduled jobs. So we are constantly adding to our content library, right? We've got a research team. I think the last count I heard was about 4 million software records, 3 million hardware records in that database, but it's ever growing. And this just gives that snapshot of how things are downloading and updating in their different divisions of that service. But where I really wanted to spend the most of today was in this lifecycle management tab. So, in the past, we do have some reports that are out there, graphs on the workspaces to help manage that lifecycle. So, this type of a report where we had that lifecycle overview, this was available on our homepage out there before, and you could click into it and see, this software is coming up end of life, which was cool. We could see the pieces of software that are coming at end of life, how many install counts, who owns that software, go track it down, and, implement internal processes to turn that software over. In Xanadu, though, we've really we've added some functionality to help manage that end of life approach in ServiceNow in our SAM workspaces. So we're going to drill in here to this end of life workflow stages graph and take a look at one that we had run through because it is rather lengthy to really capture all the tasks that you need to do to manage a piece of end of life software. So when you come into, I guess let's start back here for a second. Just go into a piece of end of life software. When you click onto a record that is reflected end of life, I got to find one that I haven't run through the workflow on. You'll see this manage end of life risk button here. Clicking that launches the workflow that we're about to take a look at. So this software end of life request is generated when you manage that risk, and it comes with a bunch of steps to help you manage it efficiently. It calls out that these tasks are provided as a template for your organization to, meet your needs. So you can change these tasks. They're built on the ServiceNow platform. So as with everything there, you can copy it, you can adjust them to assign them to the right folks and meet all the steps that you do to manage end-of-life software. But these suggestions we provide are pretty robust. So we're presented with, you know, a bunch of tasks. I've run through them all already here, but you could see the different type of work that we're asking to be done. You know, assess the IT architecture impact, that security impact, the strategy going forward. What are we going to do with this software? Eventually, in this request, we have said that we want to upgrade it, right? So we've backed up our old software. We've made plans with change management, which actually kicks off right here. It creates that change record for you so you could run it through your CAB approvals. Upon completion of that change, it then says, it gives us a recommendation to manage that new software. So that holistic piece, right? It's from the point of an old piece of software being end of life to a new software package, completing all the steps in the way to manage that effectively. Within these tasks are a slew of subtasks. So, you know, if we are evaluating the impact on our software architecture, there's a few steps that have to do there. So we have to see what business applications are running on this software. What's the operating system? What kind of usage is going on? What's that upgrade look like? Is there any migration efforts that need to happen? So it's a pretty robust workflow that's, you know, been introduced here at Xanadu and brought to your fingertips to help you make decisions in managing your end-of-life software. So
This is huge. So for anybody that doesn't know, I came from a financial background, right, where there's a lot of regulations around end of life, end of support, and not just identifying it, but you have to put actions in place, right? So you have to identify what's in your environment, but ultimately, how are you mitigating that risk by identifying it and remediating it, right? And so this, you know, a lot of times, you know, we have the visibility in ITAM of, hey, it's out there. But now how do we start taking actions? And so it's like, do you go out and build these workflows on your own? How do you manage them, right? Is it, you know, that you manage it through APM or SPM? What does that look like? But, you know, we kind of built out the best practice workflows of, you know, just from us running through it. Rich, we ran through it really quickly before this call. And I was really amazed at how well it followed some of the things that I had previously implemented within my own company. So, or my own company, like I owned the bank within the company I worked for. I wish I owned the bank. I wouldn't be here right now, but within the company I worked for. But this is really even down to the change, right? Like Rich said, sending it to the CAD for approval and evaluation and being able to have that automated change record created and, you know, automatically go out to that CAD review. So I thought it was really, really cool when we were walking through. I probably geeked out a little bit more than Rich, but yeah, it just solved for a problem that I've been in, right? So hopefully you see the value behind it.
Yeah, and you know, we went through one path of it. There are other paths it takes you through. So in this case, we upgraded our software. But if you went in that decision tree and said we need to go find a new piece of software to replace this or purchase new licensing for it, it would also create that PO, that purchase order in ServiceNow to kind of hold that record of saying, hey, someone go out, find the software, buy it, and run through that process instead. So it is pretty robust. I think it's really cool functionality and just, you know, some of the investments that we've been making into our SAM solution here at ServiceNow. Ooh.
Awesome.
Yeah. So with that,
anything else you're gonna show, or should I steal the screen back?
Yeah, I think that was going to be the wrap on that dashboard out there. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, we have made some enhancements across the rest of these tabs to really help you manage your software. So yeah, take it away, Michelle.
Thanks, Rich. Let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see it, Rich?
Not yet.
No.
I see bats behind you.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Let me share again. Sure. The bats aren't going to do any kind of demonstration for you, but they're there just to look at. All right. Got it. Perfect. Thanks. So we're going to transition over to hardware asset, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take you through some of the upgrades within hardware asset management, and we can, again, I'll pick one to showcase today. We'll talk through all four of these that I'm kind of highlighting over here. very similar to what Rich showed on the progression of the product. You can see, hardware asset management was born after software asset management in Quebec. But you can see we've made a lot of stride in this space. And with Xanadu, we'll actually be covering 4 different upgrades specific to the Xanadu release. So I'm not going to go through those here. No point in wasting time. But let's go through some of this. And I do want to talk about what Service Bridge is, because some of these are leveraging what Service Bridge. And I'm not an expert in Service Bridge. Rich, you probably know more and can talk about this a lot more, but I'm going to talk about it in layman's terms, and Rich, feel free to add color where I might be missing something. But it's really kind of that communication between multiple instances. So being able to communicate with vendors, maybe, right? And that's one of the use cases we're going to talk about today. Or maybe vendors being able to communicate with your instance. So being able to bridge those instances together and communicate within a regulated environment, right? So making sure that you're seeing only the data you're supposed to, and vice versa. Anything I missed with that, Rich, or want to highlight maybe?
I think you nailed that pretty well there. We used to have e-bonding on the ServiceNow platform, right? It's very similar to those ideas, those concepts, and we were integrating 2 ServiceNow instances as a means to share information and enhance both sides of the process.
Perfect. So with that in mind, whenever I say Service Bridge, that's what we're referring to. So I want to kind of vocabulary everybody on what Service Bridge is before I just start diving into it. So the first release that we're going to talk about within Xanadu on hardware asset management is what we call DaaS, so Device as a Service. This is really supporting our, the MSPs out there, right, and the MSP customers. So what this is if you're leasing equipment through a managed service provider, right, MSP, or you are an MSP and you're managing, different employees' assets, we actually have a way to identify those and manage those within the platform. This specifically is a store release, store request. So you would go to the ServiceNow store if you're interested in this product. It is within HAM, so there's no extra cost or licensing. We just didn't see the need to turn it on for everybody because not everybody's an MSP, right? Or utilizing the MSP. But so we'll kind of talk about what they can do. So when you are leasing equipment, right, from MSP out there, a lot of times they might be, you're ordering equipment directly through them. Maybe they're managing any RMA processes for you. They're doing inventory repair. Maybe, ultimately, in this case, you can see picking devices. So if you're ordering equipment or replacing equipment, they're going to go out and pick those. What you can see here is this blue section, or purple, whatever color it looks like to you. Those are the kind of functionalities within DaaS that you can actually leverage. Besides the picking, that I'll show you, and that's available to everybody out there. But these are specific to DaaS and being able to have workflows where you can communicate with your MSP, or the MSP's customer can communicate with them as, hey, my machine is broken. It needs to go out for our RMA or repair workflow. Or, hey, we need to order 10 different devices. Can you go ahead and order those for me, upload those into my instance, and, I can go on my merry way. So this is one feature that's coming out. I didn't want to dive too far into it. One, because I can't really show a demonstration without setting up 2 specific instances and having that correlation behind, and there's a lot of work behind it. But there are some specific videos out there around these, so we'll make sure that you get the unique videos that you can follow through with them.
I guess to tease it out there, if this is something that folks are interested out in the community here, let us know. At the end of this call, we'll be talking about a way for that to maybe happen. And if we get enough demand for it, Michelle and I'm sure we could stand up instances to talk with one another, right? We'll do our homework on either side and get that going. But let us know, right? Like if this is something you're looking to see, we'd love to try to get that out to the community.
Michelle, the customer, and Rich, the MSP. Is that what?
Whichever way we want to flavor it, that's fine.
That would be cool. The second thing is zero touch request. So we do have a zero touch refresh out there. There's a workflow around that. And again, this is using that communication with your third party, VAR or a vendor that you're ordering equipment through, but being able to go in and actually have within Employee Center, have an item out there that an employee goes and requests, we'll say a laptop, for example. That request would be attached to a workflow, which is called I think it's called zero touch request, but I can find out specifically what that one is, what that flow is. But within that flow, it actually communicates out, right? So it would communicate to your third-party vendor, and then you could go through the process of how they would go through that process of shipping that asset over to the employee. The asset would be automatically uploaded into your instance, and there's a whole workflow around that. Out of the box, your notifications will be kicked off internally first. So you never want to be ordering from a vendor without somebody being aware that that order is going through. So keep that in mind. There's a whole workflow to ensure that it's approved here, approved in your instance before it actually goes out to your vendor. Inventory picking is third one that we're going to talk about. This is for those customers that have large warehouses where they store equipment, and they need step-by-step instructions on where that equipment is, right? So the stock, the stock room, aisle space, and then actually walking you point to point to pick up those assets. Now, whenever I first heard about this, I was like, how hard could it be to pick up one asset, like know where you're going, aisle and space, right? It's like going to the grocery store and picking up one thing. But if you go to the grocery store and you're picking up 100 things, right, usually you've been in that grocery store enough to know where it is. But then you think about when they go and they reorganize everything, or reshelf everything, and you're kind of lost. So this gives you the ability to not necessarily have to have that tribal knowledge of where everything is, or stumble whenever things get moved around, but being able to actually go, do a picking event, a picking flow. And then using your mobile app, walk you step by step of, hey, I need to pick up 10 of these laptops. I need to pick up 10 of these monitors, or 20 of the monitors, 10 of the mice, 10 keyboards, right? And gives you step by step of what makes the most sense and what way to kind of snake yourself through that workshop or warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, this would be great for, I don't know how many seasonal workers there are for HAM, but this functionality, extends to our enterprise asset management solutions, where maybe you have seasonal workers coming in to manage a warehouse. They're unfamiliar. They're not used to where they are. They're presented with it right there. And I think too is, that third screenshot, if you could see it's, view steps, scan asset, it lets you do it right then and there. So you get to it, boom, you scan the assets you're looking to check out, take out of that area. So it's, it's accessible as you're kind of moving through, the warehouse. This is also built on the indoor maps that we kind of teased out a little bit earlier in a previous webinar. So, if you're curious how to build those, feel free to tune into that.
Good point. And then this last one is what I'm going to take you through. So we're going to go through a repair workflow. So now not only do we have RMA, right, where RMA would be going or being assessed by a third party, but maybe you have an asset that's actually pending repair that needs to be repaired in-house. So we'll go through this process. I'll walk through this work. Can't speak. I will walk through this specific workflow, but I do want to kind of show it out really quickly. Let's see if I can get this one to participate. And I did this one separate. Can you see it okay, Rich?
Yep.
Okay. I did this one separate because I wanted it to be long. So you can see here, we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna start it, and I'm gonna actually start it in 3 different fashions. There's 3 different ways that I know of that you can start it, but ultimately starting it where you're working, right? We don't want you to go and be bubbling around throughout the platform to try and figure out where you need to start it. There's different ways that we can kick off this workflow. We'll select the asset. It's going to ultimately generate the repair order line. We're going to go through, The first step is going to be troubleshooting it. Is it actually broken? Did you does it say it doesn't power on and you powered it on and it turned on, right? So is it repairable? Yes or no? So, and there's actually a third, whenever I was going through the workflow, I figured out that there's actually a third option here. So is it repairable? Does it need to go out for disposal, or can it be put back on the shelf? So if it wasn't turning on and it turned on and everything seemed hunky-dory, you would pick that third one. It's going to put the asset back into stock, available, right? So it's going to remove it out of that repair.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not repairable, it's going to put it into pending disposal. If it's repairable, next thing you're going to do is repair it. Is it repaired? No, it goes pending disposal. Yes, we're going to quality check it. So turn it on, make sure it's working. For example, screen, we're going to do a cracked screen. Once you fixed it, does the screen light up? Are you able to see what you're supposed to? Quality check. And then once that's been done, it's good to go. Yes, we deploy it, right? So we put it out there into the environment as available in that stock room. Again, any one of these steps that ultimately you cannot repair it or it is not fixed when you turn it on, it's going to move it to pending disposal. So we'll walk through this.
Yeah, this would have been wonderful. When I worked for a university, I was a technician that repaired laptops with cracked screens. And, I'm going to say every repair I ever did was perfect, right? But it definitely would have improved the quality of return devices, having, a workflow like that to check all the steps along the way.
I would say it's probably 99% accurate, very similar to your normalization, right?
Yes, 100%. 99.9% of devices I ever touched went back together perfectly.
Perfect. Only that 1%. Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't send out a Q&A to ask your previous employees to see if that was true. But we're in my instance. The first way I'm going to walk you through it is going through self-service catalog, right? So these are the action items that you can do around asset lifecycle. As we dive in, you will see that we're going to actually have an asset repair workflow. So this would be something, I say this is kind of like if you have a lot of assets that you want to repair, maybe you're a warehouse manager and you have a ton of assets and you need to let your technician know that, hey, these need to be repaired. You would come in here, schedule a date of when it's due. So we'll pick Friday, no time, not giving them any kind of time to make sure that they can get these repaired. You pick your stock room, and then we're going to come in here and pick the asset. So on this, and that appeared on another over here on this side really quickly. What it's going to pull in is anything that is in the state of in stock and substate of pending repair or defective. So it's going to automatically filter down to anything that's in that location, again, pending repair or defective. In this case, we will go ahead and pick a Lenovo, and I'm just going to leave it at one device, but you could go in and add multiple devices. Again, you would do that assessment fully through each one of those devices. So we'll go ahead and hit submit. That's the first way that you can create it. The second way is actually going into the workspaces. And under inventory, it helps if I'm in the right one. We're not talking about software anymore, hardware. If I go into inventory, you can see here, we now have a repair order. So if we come in here, you do have the ability to come in and create new here. Put it to assignment group. Again, I'll pick my Southern California warehouse location here. I'm going to hit save. The repair order lines, you would come in here, and this is now where you select your asset. So if I pick this Brothers printer, I'm going to go ahead and add that, and we'll save it. When we save that, it actually kicks off the whole workflow. So the third way, I'm going to jump in, not to confuse anybody, just giving you options, is we're actually going to go into an asset itself. So here, if I come in, we'll pick this MacBook Pro. I can see it's in use. I'm going to change it to in stock. Or you know what, let me go back to in use. So if I go back to in use, I come to these little, what do you call these, Rich? These three little dots, these utilities? I
Oh,
call
and
them
there,
three dots.
yeah, the three dots, I would call it that. I think if
I
it's
think
like
there's
a
a
three
professional
lines, it's
word.
the hamburger
I
menu,
do that one. I do
right?
the hamburger, yeah. So we'll call it the three dots. But here you have the ability to come in and click the three dots, and you see that there's nothing available as far as repair goes. But if this becomes now in stock, and we'll just use defective, we click save. Oh, you got to pick a stock room.
The robots are making sure we're doing everything right.
Right, making sure we're not missing any steps. So we're going to hit save. And then now you have the ability, you'll see there's a repair. So you can click within the asset itself. If it's in stock, defective, or a pending repair, you get the option to go in and click repair, and you'll see that it'll auto-generate that repair task for you. So if we jump back over, I'm going to take you through one of these, and not total cost of ownership. I'm going to take you through one of these repairs so that you can kind of see what the workflow looks like. Although I did show you at the beginning kind of what that process ultimately looks like. But here we can see this MacBook Pro is at a troubleshooting stage. So we're going to click into this task. Again, you could have these auto assigned to groups and assignments. I don't have that set up within my instance, but we'll say here, cracked screen, right? So the screen is cracked. So we do know that we need to go ahead and complete the task of troubleshooting it. I'm going to again put cracked screen. And then we're going to, now let me talk about these little other tabs that you can click, right? So you do have the ability, if you have, you know, if you want to say, okay, I evaluated, I did all of these, and you want to bulk close these tasks, you can go through that process and do that. And I personally recommend blacking this out from any technician, because they're going to say that they did it and they might not have done exactly what needed to be done. But you do have the ability to bulk close.
So it's a double-edged sword there, right? we hear both lenses of it. So my take on it is Michelle's, like, right? Like, we want to hold accountability for our folks to do the work that they're supposed to be doing. Now, this button will allow for probably easier adoption of the solution and less pushback from those technicians in their day-to-day job. So it might be better in an initial implementation, right, that this kind of exists, that doesn't totally upset their apple cart of how they do their job. But if you are struggling with not being at 99.9% accuracy on your repairs, I would suggest leaving that button up there.
And see, Rich is a really trusting person, and he trusts that people are going to get things done. I, on the other hand, have to see that it gets done. So that's maybe the woman in me. I can't say that. But you do also have the ability to start and stop the work. So being able to associate time in how long it's taking to do these repairs. Maybe you have a cost for each one of those technicians. Maybe, you know, a technician's at $50 an hour. You start and stop this. You get it at 1 hour, $50. Where that actually starts helping is in the total cost of ownership. We released total cost of ownership. I think it was last release.
Washington. Yep.
Yep. So when we're identifying how much it's costing you to maintain these assets, we're using that functionality, that start and stop, with associating it to a dollar amount, and then ultimately rolling it up to those assets so you can see how many times it went for repair. Really good use case to be able to say, hey, you know, maybe not a cracked screen, but something that constantly you seeing this same model isn't turning on, right? It's like a constant problem, and you roll that up to a model level, then you take that back, right? Maybe this is Apple, like in this instance, you go back to Apple and say, hey, you sold me lemons, right? Or Dell or Lenovo or whoever that is. So, but we're going to go ahead and close this task, kind of sidetracked. I say we're going to close it. We are going to pick that it is repairable. So these are those three options. So is it repairable? Unrepairable would mean disposal, or deployable, meaning maybe they said it was a cracked screen. There's no crack on the screen. You're ready to send it back, right? So just so that we can walk through the workflow, we're going to say repairable, and we're going to close this task.
Yep.
The next task that it's going to kick off, and these are not as long as the ones we were showing you around end of life and the support, so bear with me, but this next one is going to be, okay, you need to repair the asset. Is it repairable? We're going to say, yes, we repaired the asset. Change the screen. And we're going to close this task again. The next one that it's going, it helps if I go back into the right one. The next task is going to be, now you change the screen. Have you evaluated it? Does it actually turn on? So we say, yes, it turns on. We're going to redeploy that asset. Rich fixed amazingly. It helps if
Allegedly.
I can spell. I can't even spell. Okay, we're going to close this task. And what will happen is now we're going to see everything has been closed complete. If I come into the asset itself, let's get back into one of these. If I come into the asset, I can see now it moved. If I come over here to the activities, it went from pending evaluation. So it went from pending repair to pending valuation to now available. So these are all those workflows. I can also see it's in stock in my Southern California warehouse and it's available. And if I scroll down here, this should be showing updated. Let's refresh this. What you'll see here, if it works right with for me, which it did on the initial. So here you can see repair, right? And so it's another item that we can get into and go behind the scenes and actually see how many times it's been repaired and all the records of that. So that is the workflow, again, around repair, very similar to some other workflows that we have out there, depending on ultimately how your evaluation goes of that asset. Where does it need to reside? Does it go disposal? Does it go back on the shelf for availability? Did it cost time and energy on your employees to get that repaired, and capturing all of that within the workflow. So I'm going to jump out of this. Let me pull back up my slideware. Let's figure out where we were at.
So I think
I'm going, I'm too slow.
No, we're
okay. So thanks for watching the demonstration. A few resources that we want to provide. Again, this is a community to help y'all mature on the platform and ultimately get resources in your hands when we know of them. So there is actually Rangers within ServiceNow is kind of our customer success team, right? But they really focus in on making sure that customers are successful within different products. And then we had the Ranger team actually create a lot of how-to videos for software asset management and hardware asset management.
Yep.
So if you are just implementing and trying to figure out where to start or how to do certain things, right? These are going to be some good videos, and I will share this slide deck out with the links attached to these. But if you do go to YouTube, you can also search Ask a Ranger, and it'll come up with these different videos. Lots of very, I would say, very helpful videos out there that I've leveraged personally quite a few times within customer conversations and sharing them out. So.
And I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but every Ranger that I've spoken to here at ServiceNow has an AI generated headshot. So,
really?
I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Maybe you should be on the Ranger team.
No, I don't know. No, I'm saying I'm not convinced that they're not just AI helping us here. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
They're great.
I met them.
No, I've met them too. They're great people to work with. They really want to see our customers succeed on the platform, and that was the idea behind this whole series that they launched.
Yeah, very, very helpful. I wanted to throw this in here, and the reason is because, like we were showing at the beginning of the call, a lot of innovation that we've done over time on both of these products, right? And what it shows is that we are actually, we're actually putting things that are in place that are really helpful for customers, and we're meeting those needs out there in the industry and getting those recognitions. So just kind of kudos to our product team, right? I know that they kill it day in and day out with trying to make sure that they're satisfying customer needs, satisfying the workflows and processes. I shouldn't say workflows, the processes that are in place around ITAM and the framework, and marrying all that together. So just wanted to kind of give a little bit of kudos. Rich, do you want to talk about our topic for November?
Yeah, we're getting towards the end of the year here with the webinar series, and it's been a great journey so far. We feel it's been very community oriented. We get lots of interaction and questions both here and outside the webinar series. So we figured we would turn the last one of the year over to everybody in our audience. So please register for this on our website, our your.servicenow.com/UIE. We have a form to submit your questions. We're going to be reviewing these. I think we're going to try to cut them off a couple days before that webinar, just so we could get through them all, condense them down into some common themes, and answer really, like, for the folks out there listening, we want to hear what questions you have, what you'd like to see us kind of talk about future. So again, this is on our website. Feel free to submit them here. We'll be going through them for that next webinar series.
Yeah. So this is the questionnaire, and this is where you can actually register for the session. So register if you want to know, because I don't know if this will be recorded. It all kind of depends on the questions that come up, but most likely it will be recorded. We just won't be announcing necessarily the names of who are asking.
Yeah, it will be anonymous.
We do recommend that go ahead and register, because that's when you'll get notification of us uploading the video to the additional resources down here. The other thing, I didn't put the date on here, but it will be November 21st that we'll actually be doing it. So the week before Thanksgiving. So I guess we'll have some kind of turkey wine or something. I guess we should have asked kind of we did get suggestions. So thanks to everyone that had put some suggestions in the wine, the wine suggestion box. But
yeah,
I think at this point we're 8 minutes ahead. Let's go ahead and turn off the recording.
And we do have a few questions out there in the chat, Michelle. So I'm gonna start with those, folks. I guess if there are any other questions, feel free to throw them in that Q&A, and we'll answer them.